Hello, John, and welcome. Could you tell us a bit more about your current responsibilities and daily work? Your title claims you are an HR Evangelist, a researcher, and also a consultant. In addition, I know you're also a professor. In which of these capacities are you joining us here today?
I am the HR Evangelist for SD Worx, which means that I speak on behalf of the company on topics on the future of work and HR in all the countries where we are present. I'm also a researcher at the University of Antwerp and the Antwerp Management School, and occasional guest lecturer on topics related to HR and the future of work.
SD Worx is participating as a partner to our CFO event, and you'll be discussing trust in the workplace. Without giving too much away, can you explain why trust is such an important topic for SD Worx, and particularly within the finance sector?
As a public speaker for SD Worx, I would like to address this topic, which may be the odd one out at this particular conference, because trust is becoming a new theme. It's so important in the employment relationship and relates so much to effectiveness, but also turnover, absenteeism, and so on in the workplace, that I think we need to renew our attention also from the finance point of view for trust in the workplace as being an important asset for being competitive in the future.
On a more personal note, I understand you're based in Antwerp. Do you have any special interests or hobbies that you enjoy doing during your free time? Or do you have a secret skill that you would like to share with us?
More on my leisure time. I do live in Antwerp, not far from the headquarters of SD Worx, and I'm a keen open swimmer, open water swimmer in winter and in summer, which may relate me also to the Scandinavian audience. And I've picked up running since the COVID period. So if all goes well, I'll be running half a marathon trail next weekend.
Thank you very much. It's unfortunate that we couldn't host you here in Stockholm, but we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. The stage is now yours.
Good morning, all. I hope you're enjoying the CFO Nordic forum, CFO forum at the moment. Unfortunately, I can't be there, but I'm very happy to address you via this recording. I'd like to talk about trust in the workplace. My name is, as I mentioned, Jan Laurijssen. I'm the HR Evangelist for SD Worx. And these are some of our affiliations, the things that we work on. Like we said, we do a lot of university work, academic research with the University of Antwerp. We have been collaborating with the Antwerp Management School for over 13 years, particularly on topics of sustainable HR and sustainable careers. I'm very much involved also in a EU-funded project called Seismic, where we investigate the role of AI in the workplace and particularly in production sites and for blue-collar workers. Last but not least, I'm a proud member of Reshaping Work, promoting good work in the future in an age of AI. So I want to bring you some things about this topic, so stemming from research, also our own research that we just recently conducted with SD Worx about trust. Why talk about trust now is maybe a good question, specifically for an audience of financial professionals and CFOs. Well, I like to put it here clearly with a quote from research already from 2011, and that's why it's also now or again. So a number of studies have shown employee trust to be a critical variable affecting the effectiveness, the efficiency, and the performance of organizations. Perceptions of organizational trustworthiness and trust in an organization can provide a competitive advantage for firms. And this is critical, of course, for any organization. So this relates very much to a number of aspects of the employment relationship, the psychological contract, aspects of engagement, but also on the negative side on disengagement and absenteeism, for instance. So very important to pay attention again to this topic, especially also in an age of AI. Bringing me to my next slide, which I use often to say, okay, the world of work is looking different now than it was a couple of years ago. And there are some aspects, also some trends that we are observing that actually affect also the trust of people. We're looking at this from three sides, one of the labor market aspects, one from an employer perspective, and one from a talent or a worker perspective. And I think it's obvious that one of the main things that at the moment is at the top of mind of a lot of people is what is AI going to do? Are we going to lose our jobs? Are we creating jobs, or are we destroying jobs? That is a very tough question. And people should worry indeed about this because as the OECD has shown, 27% of all jobs are at high risk of automation in any way. And maybe the biggest effect of that indirectly is going to be that the people that are losing their jobs may not be the ones that are eligible for the new jobs that are creating. That is an important point. Next to that, I think that AI is also playing a big role in the facilitation of the personalized employment relationship. So down on the left, personalization is one of the trends that we think is really important to observe at the moment. The way that we can interact from an employer-employee point of view to also cater for the needs of that individual employee in terms of working time, in terms of place of working, in terms of shifts, in terms of benefits. So personalization is going to be a very important element, and it has already been facilitated by digitalization for quite some time, but artificial intelligence is definitely going to help us there as well. So that's on the upside. And last but not least, I think from an employer side, with everything that's happening in the world of work at the moment, building a sustainable supply chain management of talent will be very, very, very important. The skills of the future, the things that people need to learn, these are all things that we should take into account when we talk about trust. So looking at that, I think there are three things that we can distinguish when we talk about trusted workplace. And this is, by the way, the work of my colleague Lorenzo Andolfi. So credits to Lorenzo for this. Building trust in the workplace is basically based on three pillars, which is trust in governance, trust in people, and trust in technology. There are more, but specifically in terms of workplace, we think these three are very important to have a look at. Trust in governance, trust in HR means that people want to see HR to be sustainable, that careers would be sustainable, are looking for transparency. But it also means that we're looking at ethical and compliant practices so people can feel safe and feel also that the treatment that they receive in the employment relationship is equitable. Trust in people, of course, is very important. This has also has to do with competent team, with leadership aspects, so people can actually trust the colleagues that they work with on a daily basis, and also other stakeholders. And last but not least, there is, of course, the aspect of trust in technology. The way that technology, AI in particular, is changing the way we work does raise a number of questions into human centricity, to security, to privacy in the organization. So we've done some research recently. It's called the HR and Pulse Payroll. We do research in 16 countries. We survey about 5,600 HRDs and 16,000 employees and ask them a number of questions, and also amongst them a number of questions related to trust. So if we look at trust and governance as a first pillar, what have we been asking and what have we been observing, or what are interesting results to have a look at? First of all, looking from the employer side, so HRDs, 62% of the employers believe their employees trust their HR practices, which is a good thing. So like I said, coming from our SD Worx HR and Payroll Pulse 2025, oddly enough, if we look at trust and governance from the employee side, over 1 in 2 employees distrusts HR, apparently. So from the questions that we've been asking, only 47% of employees trust HR management of organizational matters, and less than half of employees believe the organization promotes inclusivity, fair HR practices, personal growth, and well-being. We've put some graphs down there using the figures, comparing the figures for Sweden with the overall total. Looking at, I trust how HR managers things in my organization. I think 50% and a little bit up. But the trend is clear for the different questions that we asked. Sweden is there more or less at the average also. If you look at the right-hand side, the organization aims to positively influence employers' well-being, both inside and outside the workplace, 44% versus 45% in total. I think the trend is clear. But this in such is something that we should be taking into account and should care about, because apparently there is a lot of room for improvement here from an HR perspective to focus more and more on sustainable HR, for instance, and sustainable careers, so that people also feel that they are treated equally and that they have opportunities to further grow. Taking this further to trust in people, we might have a look also at some interesting figures here. And more in 1 in 3 employees struggles with trust issues in the workplace. 35% of employees believe their manager struggles with effective leadership, and 33% of employees feel they are not treated equally within their team. Figures for the general population for the 16 countries in Sweden are more or less alike. I'm treated equally in my team. About 67% of the Swedish respondents said that. But this also raises the question, how can we focus again, pay more attention to the idea that trust in leadership and trust in employees and in co-workers can be reinforced? Because things are getting quieter in the workplace. And this stems from research from Professor P. de Prins at the Antwerp Management School, who did research towards employee silence. So apparently more and more people are not really speaking up in the workplace. And even a very small group of about 20% of workers actually refuse to speak up. And so it's important that we focus again on encouraging employee engagement as a lever in breaking employee silence. So looking at this also in terms of what is it gives us in terms of actionable topics. For HR, it means that we have to focus again a lot on participation and on listening to what people have to say. And I can imagine that a lot of organizations, your organizations today in the room, also focus on, for instance, engagement surveys, on worker satisfaction surveys, on NPS and so on. And this is critically important to actually listen so that we can actually engage people again in speaking up and voicing out what they think and what they need, so that we can also focus on that from the employer point of view. An important topic, a second important topic, and then it brings me to the last. Trustworthy technology. Trust in technology is probably one of the big things that organizations are focusing on. We also noticed that in the research that we're doing in the Seismic project with the Erasmus University of Rotterdam and Technical University in Berlin, for instance, where trustworthiness in the workplace becomes really, really important. And we asked a number of questions, again, both employees and employers. But like my colleague sums up very well here, many challenges in adopting AI in HR also stem from a lack of trust, including concerns over data privacy, job displacement, distrusted AI-driven processes, skepticism about its effectiveness, and ethical considerations. So it means that we're going to have to invest quite a lot also in explainable AI, in making sure that people can understand and that we can explain what the tools do for us and that we can actually trust them, how it works, and that we can support people in learning to work with these new toolings. And they can be generative AI, but they can be much more other things as well in the workplace, from augmented reality over algorithms that actually take over a number of pieces of the planning. This is going to be a very important thing. And 2 in 5 employees fear AI will make the workplace less human-centric. So in terms of trust, this is becoming crucial. And if we look at the graphs down, they are very interesting, because here we do see a difference when it comes to Swedish respondents. I believe AI may shift the workplace toward being less human-centric. I think the Swedish respondents were optimistic, only 30% versus 40% almost. I am concerned that AI will make a significant part of my task redundant. Here again, only 22% versus a larger percentage in the total group. And last but not least, and I find this was remarkable, I trust AI to be fair and ethical when making decisions. I think that here the Swedish audience is more skeptical, actually, and only 70.7% says that they trust actually the AI to be fair and ethical when taking decisions. So we need to take this into consideration. And here also as a takeaway, maybe towards what we can do about this, is we're going to have to invest also in explainable AI that actually makes sense to people and that they can be sure and trust the tooling that they're working with. And at the same time, in initiatives of learning, so people can actually start to learn to work with these kind of tools over time. And this will not happen, by the way, in classrooms, but this will be working, of course, in the workplace on a daily basis. If we look at the last quote, maybe to actually finish this up, apologies. I think that the most important lesson that we can pull from this, and that is we're going to continue to research this, is that in a world characterized by constant change, trust is increasingly becoming a necessity. We can't avoid this topic. We need to talk about this. The workplace is changing dramatically, also related to AI, that we have to think about this. So there's only one thing to say to finish up, and it is trust rocks. And let's pay attention to initiatives that can support trust in the workplace. Thank you.